Okay, guys, listen. We're gonna react to this. Dantes playing AD carry. I played AD carry for 400 games and got banned. It is the brutal truth. We're gonna react to this. I hope. I hope. I mean, this guy is a bit rage baiting. Honestly, I don't know if what he's saying is actually what he believes, or he's just trying trolling really hard because 90% of the cases what he says is just very delusional. But actually 10% of the cases is actually smart and makes sense. So yeah, let's react this and let's see what the fuck is Dantes doing right now. He's playing AD carry. Like this guy is one of the best junglers on Hekarim at least. So let's see what he says.
If you've never played ADC before, then by the end of this video, you'll feel like you have. For the last 3 weeks, I've been playing on a fresh account where I've gone through all the elos from Iron all the way up until Diamond, playing only ADC. Throughout that time, I've never duoed a single time, I've never played with any other player, and I have only locked in stereotypical bot lane picks. Apart from the 4 games I played Dr. Mundo, of course. And yes, after having a day that felt like a fever dream and ending almost every single game, I did end up getting rank restricted as well. So, what I'm going to do today for you guys is I'm going to give you guys my unfiltered experience as an ADC player and really let you guys know what playing the role is actually like. To start things off, I haven't played lane in years. The last time I was a laner was back in Season 10 when I was a lane Hecarim one trick and I used to play Hecarim mid and top. I was able to hit a peak of Grandmaster 300 LP, but every champion I played besides Hecarim had a legitimate 30% win rate. And that's just for laning. When it comes to playing ADC, the last time I consistently played ADC was back in Season 5 when I used to be a Nard top and a Jinx bot 2 trick. So, as you can tell, going into this challenge, I didn't really know what to expect. My thoughts were that ADC was an easy role, piloted by crybabies that would just get mad when their support left lane, and as a result, I thought that if I just played a bunch of games, played mechanically well, which I knew I was able to do on Hecarim, and then also built items that increase survivability, I thought I'd be good. My approach to playing ADC was that of a bruiser player's mindset of what I don't want to see when I see an ADC on the enemy team. If I see somebody building Berserker's Greaves and a bunch of crit items, I'm happy. Why? Because they're easy to kill. But then when they build things like steel caps or bruiser items, they become infinitely harder to kill and they make my job way harder as a bruiser. So I thought going into this challenge that if I played ADCs like bruisers and I just built them kind of tanky, then I'd be able to breeze through every elo and 1v9.
The thing is, if you go AD carry with normal builds, or you build AD carries with bruiser items, you are not infinitely more tanky. You are tankier, but if you get blitz hooked in a fight, you're gonna die anyways. If you get Nautilus hooked, if you get Malphite ulted, you're probably gonna die anyways, right? So yeah, I don't know what to say about like bruiser kind of thing. The thing is, I agree with plated boots and with like mercs. Okay, mercs on AD carry is a bit iffy, but plated boots, berserkers, completely useless. They used to be giving you 35% attack speed, and those were the times when most of the high elo players they were just rushing 11,100, 35% attack speed, really good item. Now with 25%, completely dog shit. Agree with that? With the other things is a bit yeah. It's just I can't agree with the other things though.
Are you an AD carry main who feels like no matter how well you play, win the lane, make good decisions, play mechanically well most of the times, but you still have no real impact? You crush it one day, win 5 games in a row and feel unstoppable, but the next day you lose every single game and start doubting yourself. Am I even a good AD carry? What can I do if enemy top lane and mid lane are so fed? Imagine a world where you never let the lead slip away. You know exactly how to push your advantage, exactly when to rotate at the right time, and how to control objectives so you can snowball the game. A world where as AD carry you don't feel forced to make risky plays and you don't drop your lead. But you don't have to imagine it, you can make it a reality. This is Martin. He was grinding games, watching guides and trying his best, but none of it seemed to work. The problem? He was focusing on the wrong things. You don't improve just by playing more games, you improve by fixing the small mistakes that cost you wins. And that's a problem that most AD carry face. From Platinum 3 to Diamond in 2 months. Billy found himself making the same mistakes over and over again, engaging at the wrong time or mispositioning in teamfights, dying for no reason, and he even knew some of the mistakes but he didn't know how to fix it. He would find himself guessing what to do next, unsure whether to push, rotate or fight while feeling completely lost in the mid game. Now, he knows exactly what to do at every stage of the game and his results speak for themselves. Silver to Emerald in a month. Shaquille went from Diamond 4 to Challenger. Alex went from Gold to Grandmaster. And they are not alone, they are part of a growing community of over 3,254 players who have taken coaching and transformed their gameplay. But here is the truth, this was not overnight and it was not effortless. Shaquille spent 2 years grinding to reach Challenger, not by playing more, but by playing smarter. Alex dedicated 26 months refining his skills and climbing to Grandmaster once he started focusing on what actually matters. So no, this is not a one session and you'll climb instantly, promise. If you're looking for that, if you're looking for a shortcut, this isn't it. But if you're willing to put in the time, willing to put in the effort, apply the right mindset and focus on the details that actually matter, this is the proof that coaching actually works. You're closer to being a great AD carry than you think. Most players just need to uncover what's actually holding them back. That's it. You could keep grinding, watching random guides and hoping for progress, but how much time will you waste before realizing something is missing? You could finally find the real mistakes that have been keeping you stuck and start making real progress. You have already put in the effort. Now let's make sure it pays off. Book your coaching session now at Bizyze.com.
In every game. Let's just say I got a bit of a reality check. In lower elos, even though I did lose a lot of games initially, the games did feel kind of easy. I would have way more deaths than anybody would ever think is acceptable for ADC players, but I was still able to maintain high-ish win rates of about 60% because my mechanics in teamfighting were just really good. Yes, sometimes I would go in too early and end. Yes, a lot of the times I would get caught out on side lane. But in the games where I would actually play the team fights properly, my spacing was good enough that I was able to solo carry quite a few games the second mid game started approaching. So with that, we'll talk about rule 1 of being an ADC. Comebacks are possible. The biggest thing that I learned about being an ADC player for a little while is that if your laning phase goes badly, it does not mean the game is over. Since AD carries are typically expected to position well and play off their teammates engage and play off other people going in, it makes it so that you'll have quite a few opportunities within a game where if you can just bide your time, you can find a random triple kill, get enough gold through shutdowns to get more gold than the enemy AD carry, and then from that point on just take over the entire game. The amount of games where I was literally going 0-8, 0-9, but I would be able to find that one team fight that just gave me shutdowns that'll put me ahead of the enemy ADC, would probably account for about 40 to 50% of my wins. And this builds into point 2. Mental is the most important thing. I'm going to stand up for this because I really need to go in depth on what I'm about to say, but if you actually listen to what I'm going to say, you'll probably agree. When you're playing ADC, one of the issues is that you're not going to have a lot of control over the early stages of the game. And this is one of the big points about being an ADC player. Point 2. Your early game impact is only limited to your lane. You cannot roam in the same way that support can. You cannot shove and roam in the same way that a mid laner can. You cannot make DP plays in the same way that top laner can. And you also cannot gank the same way a jungler can. As a result, the early stages of your game are going to be very limited in terms of what options you really have. Because the only thing you can actually do is walk to lane. And this is going to make it very frustrating when the enemy jungler is going to path top or your support is going to roam and the enemy support doesn't, because what's going to end up happening is you're going to feel like there's nothing you can do. But the truth is that every role is like that. Yes, even though junglers and mid laners can get roams and do crazy shit in games that allow them to get leads, the amount that you actually gain from that isn't a game-winning margin that's going to break or make different roles. The number one...
Okay, yes, comebacks are possible, and this is important. AD carry main mental is one of the most important things on AD carry. 100%, it is so tilting to play AD carry and to have like a bad support. I mean, if you just focus on yourself and you have a good mental, even with the bad support, you can anyways win. So many people have 80% win rate in master tier, 75% win rate in diamond 2, diamond 1. AD carry, I mean, I think jungle and mid lane is definitely better. Like as he says, you can roam mid, you can as jungle. It's so much easier to climb as well. With AD carry, it is harder, and it's just fact because with jungle you can just impact other roles so easy. It's just mathematically, statistically, as jungle you can just gain 3 lanes. AD carry you can't really impact a lot of stuff, so it's just much easier to improve to climb on AD on jungle. But it is possible on AD carry as well, and I actually like, yeah, mental is very important as well. This guy, when he spoke about his deaths, I mean, yeah, he's having a very like a very crazy playstyle. Let's put it like that. But yeah, crybabies on AD carry is because people, I mean, they have to just understand that when you play AD carry, your jungle and your support influences you so much, and you have to be really good with wave management, positioning, for you to understand what fights to join and what fights to not join. But because most of the AD carriers don't really know that, they get into shit fights, they get into shit, trades and stuff like that. So yeah, but mental is really important. And shout out to him that he actually didn't play duo, no other player. Like he actually played only solo, which is really good.
One characteristic that every single ADC has to possess if they actually want to win games is mental fortitude. And that's, believe it or not, the reason why I've been losing a lot of games from the time I've been Diamond. When you see your support roaming, you are not allowed hitting the wave. When you see your jungler pathing top, you do not want to engage the enemy. But my issue is that I always want to fight. I want to fight, I want to outplay, I want to outtrade, and anytime I see things on my screen, I just want to kill them. If you're the same as me in that regard, then I am telling you, ADC is not really for you. You need to actually choose your fights properly, and most of the time, farming consistently is the best way to win in the mid game. But the problem is that that's also a very boring approach to League of Legends. Sitting bot lane farming and trying not to die isn't really the exciting League experience that most players would hope for. And as someone who's been a jungle main for years and always loved the idea of going for ganks, going for 2v2, 3v3 plays, and all this stuff, it's one of the things that I've been struggling very hard to adapt to. Instead of being a playmaker, you have to be reactionary in the majority of cases. And if you're not, the higher you climb, the worse it's gonna get. My playstyle of just side laning, all-inning, and perma-fighting worked for me until I got to Diamond. And then once I got to Diamond,
Yeah, you have to be definitely, you have to react to things as dedicated more than you, because you can't really make plays, right? And the thing is, what he says, he always want to fight. I mean, that is not true. You don't, like, even if you play mid and you play, I don't know, let's say Z, you don't always want to fight. You want to pick up your fights smart. Even on AD carry, you can actually fight a lot if you play like Draven or Lucian, and we have a good matchup. You have a Nami, but it just all depends on what you play, and all depends on what champ you have with you, like on support. But this kind of concept, like you always want to fight, it's kind of stupid. Like, what champion do you want to play that you always want to fight? No, are you weak side? Are you strong side? What is the support? Do you need to recall? How much gold do you have? You don't always want to fight in no situation. You have to be smart about what fights you're picking, and it's very like it's a bit insane that this guy is like, he always wants to fight and he just plays Hecarim full clears for like 20 minutes and then plays the game. Like, how, like, I guess he's just very, like, he's a bit impatient, like when he plays AD carry and you have so much damage and you have so many options, as opposed to when you play Hecarim and you do nothing the whole game. Of course, you can be proactive and you can skip camps and stuff like that, but mostly Hecarim means tempo and consistency and efficiency and just doing the camps as fast as possible. Like when he plays AD carry, he just always on the fight. Yeah, I think you can play AD carry like that as well, but at the same time, it doesn't mean if you play top or if you play mid, you you are in any situation where you always want to fight. That is kind of stupid. League is about being smart, strategic, and knowing when to pick up fights.
I would actually be able to solo lose games for my teams in the games where I dropped 5, 6, 7 deaths by 15 minutes. That's when things start to go really badly. But this doesn't necessarily mean that ADC is a weak role. It just means that there are different power dynamics for different roles. A jungler can make plays early game that gets his team a winning lead, but if in the mid game the jungler's team refuses to collapse on objectives or they don't clear out waves fast enough to enable him, then the jungler's game will be unplayable at a certain point as well. So the trade-off of ADC is that even though early game you're weak and you're susceptible to having a bunch of things happen that are going to make your game feel hard to play, once you approach to the mid game and the laning phase actually ends, everyone's existence revolves around you, which means that the cards are in your hand. Your team will want to peel you. The enemy team will want to focus.
Yeah, honestly, even if you play jungle and if you actually get ahead of the game, you get your lanes ahead, you're also ahead, so you can also have an impact in the mid game. But if you play the carry and you're like behind in the early game, or let's say you can't influence the early game, then mid game you're gonna be not useless, but like, I don't know. I just always have the impression that if a challenger, a challenger player tries to climb on jungle and then tries to climb to AD carry, with jungle he's going to have 80% win rate, and with AD carry he's going to have 65 to 70%, right? So it's still going to be easy with AD carry too, but a jungle is like, you can easily do it. That's the thing. And this thing of like everything like plays around you in the mid game. No one gives a shit about you in solo queue as AD. No one gives you anything. Everyone they take your resource. The enemy mid lane doesn't want to go bot lane. Like, what the fuck you saying, bro? Did you play in low elo where you go mid as AD carry and your mid lane doesn't want to go bot and it just takes your wave and pings you? Like, did you Did you play there, bro?
If you've
I
never played
don't. I don't think so. I don't think so. Don't think so.
minutes, that's when things start to go really badly. But this doesn't now point out. So your jungle, for example, is a little bit they whine and they cry when it comes to how the game is played is oftentimes correct. Most of the games are going to come down to whichever team gets soul wins the game. So when the enemy jungler's pathing bot and getting their bot lane ahead, and they have 2 dragons by 20 minutes, and your top laner just got your Malphite top 1 kill, that guy is so losing the game for your entire team. The real reason why bot lane is the most impactful role has to do with dragons. Once you approach the mid game, then it makes it so that you need to play for win conditions if you actually want to end the game. Because just walking mid and hitting the wave isn't good enough with the amount of wave clear in the game. As a result, dragons are the one insurance policy that can win you every single game, because when you have 2 to 3, playing for soul is good enough that it can legitimately win you the game. So when your jungler paths top and the enemy jungler paths bot, the real issue isn't the fact that your bot lane is going to die. It's the fact that the enemy jungler is going to prio dragons and your team isn't. Yes, bot lane does account for 40% of the team since there are 2 players in it, but the real strength of it is just how close they are to the drags. Getting a good gank bot off and then afterwards transitioning that into a dragon play is legitimately a strategy that any novice level jungler could employ and easily get them to diamond. So do I think that junglers should be skipping their entire camp to randomly dive the enemy bot lane? No. But not pathing bot is an extremely bad habit that every jungler needs to get out of their mind, because dragons are broken and you need to play for them. So now it's going to be time for the main part of the video that you guys are all waiting for, itemization. One of the biggest
Yeah, I don't know what to say. This thing, definitely, majority of the cases you path towards bot lane. Definitely, there are cases where it's super high volatility on top, and you can just play
If
top
you've
as well, right? Like you can. There are many cases where you can just play top. Like when do you play top? When you just have high volatility, like let's say you have Camel against Darius, you have Fiora versus Irelia, you have Jax versus, like, if you have like a matchup where you know they both have Ignite, or you know one has Ignite, one has TP, and you know if you get a kill on that Jax with Ignite, his game is over because he can't just TP back and just, the moment you give Kled a lead, he's just gonna smash Jax a lot, like really hard. Like it's actually worth to pet top. But in general, if you have Ornn, if you have Cho'Gath, if you have like matchups, even Garen, honestly, like champions that don't really have so much impact and they're not so volatile, definitely you should pet bot, like Kale, Ornn. Like you don't really give a shit. But this will also depend on the setup bot lane. Like in this case that he actually had there, he's playing against Blitz, right? And he's playing with Briar, Kled, and they both have Ignite. Like why would I come bot in this game with Kayn, right? I have Soraka. Okay, should I have Vayne? I can play around it, but they have Blitz, so they have a lot more setup, right? And we have no setup, right? So if Kled wants to play, I think he should just play top, because they both have Ignite and it's super high volatility. At the same time, when you play Kled, you can also play for counter gank, because if you know Belveh just pats towards bot, because he has a Blitzcrank into Soraka, so he could pat to bot. Definitely you can just play for counter ganks bot, or you just play for your clear and period, right? Because when you play Kayn, Hecarim, stuff like this, you just play for your clear. Honestly, you don't really care more about lanes as much as on other champions. So he has multiple options, but he needs to think about all of these conditions, right? Volatility on top lane, setup on support, kind of champion that you play, enemy jungle pathing. You can't just say, yeah, I'm gonna path to a top lane every game and I get to diamond. Yeah, in like 10,000 games, maybe, yeah, because you're coin flipping every game.
Jungler or an enemy ADC that itemize briefs more often than not. Especially since most ADCs don't build any armor pen until their 3rd or even 4th item, getting Tabby will be enough oftentimes to give you the deciding amount of tankiness that is going to solo win you fights in 1v1 or even 2v2 settings. Now obviously there are exceptions if the enemy goes double mage bot, which is broken as fuck by the way, or if you're in this 1v3 scenario, but I'm telling you that itemizing defensive boots the majority of the time is going to increase your win rate. Because you'll make it so that you won't get one shot by the people trying to dive you, and you're also going to have a defensive edge when you and the enemies are all in each other. So for defensive boots for ADC, I think I was right. But now, what about itemization? Part of the problem with being an ADC is that the majority of the time, if you only build one crit item, it's not enough for you to actually do damage. You need two. Something that I've learned over the course of my climb as an ADC player is that when it comes to crit items, there are only 3 good items. You have Infinity Edge, Lord Dom's Regards, and Yuntal. Every Zeal item is trash. I'll talk a little bit more about that later. And items like, let's say, Collector get outvalued by LDR, so they're not even worth building. Part of the issue with playing ADC is that you are always going to be hitting what you are in range of hitting, which is the enemy front line. If you do not have any armor pen built by your 3rd item, then you are going to be legitimately worthless, because you won't be able to damage any tank or bruiser that has steel caps or Randuins. But in the same grain of thought process as well, part of the issue too is that once you're at 3 items, so is the enemy team. And if they have a Nocturne that's going to ult on you, or LeBron that's going to try assassinating you, then you will not even be able to get an auto attack off before dying. So that's the reason why on champions like Sivir, for example, I go Yuntal into Infinity Edge, and then afterwards I get Cleaver, because it gives me the resistances that I need, so that even if I get
Yeah, that's not that bad really on Sivir because you don't really need attack speed on Sivir. So if you just get Yuntal into Infinity, you have a lot of damage. You have W on like attack speed on W. You have Yuntal. You have little tempo, whatever. It's fine, But going on Vayne, like tanky items, I mean, and especially because he goes third item, I think on AD carry you can need 3 items, no, to damage. Because second item, like I don't know, it's just yes, you can build tank at fourth, fifth item, but you can't rebuild tank at third item like he does. And definitely the attack speed boots are very bad and plated boots are very OP. That I definitely agree with.
though by the enemy, I'm still able to survive. And while people might talk a lot about positioning this, positioning that, the truth is that you cannot position against a Cannon's flash ult. You cannot position against a Nocturne ulting on top of you, or a Zed flashing from Fog of War and ulting on you. So the kind of TLDR that I found on playing ADC has been itemize 2 to maybe even 3 offensive items if you can afford to when the enemy team doesn't have dive. Like, for example, Infinity Edge, Yuntal, and then LDR. And then once you get those items, itemize defensively. You will not drastically alter your damage output if you go something like, for example, Navori, versus if you build something like Hexplate. But what you will be doing is you're making it so that the enemy team's job of one-shotting you becomes infinitely harder. And now we'll talk a little bit about Zeal items, the worst class of items in the entire game. If there's one thing that I want you to know before playing ADC, or I want you to know if you do play ADC, it's that you should never, ever, ever build any of these items. Exceptions might be that if you want to get a late game item as Runans, as your literal 6th item, or if you want to itemize Runans because you're itemizing Cleaver and you want to benefit from armor pen on a bunch of people, then go for it. But if you're going items like Navori, if you're going items like Phantom Dancer or Rapid Fire Cannon, you are trolling. When you build an item that gives you AD, like Experimental Hexplate, for example, which gives you 40, what ends up happening is that if you have 3 crit items and then you build Experimental Hexplate, you're getting 40.
Yeah, like Rapid Fire Cannon is not super good item. Like Phantom Mystery is fine. Yeah, Rapid Fire Cannon is not a good item. The thing is, why you building it, right? Why you're building that item? You're building that item because you can't really hit stuff, right? Like if I play Lucian and the enemy team has an Ezreal on, let's say, AD carry, Syndra on mid lane, and they have a Nidalee on jungle, and then on top lane they have something like Chase. Tell me, how am I gonna do damage, right? I'm not gonna do damage because they have so much range that I need rapid fire cannon. Especially if I have a Melio and all what I have to do is like dash in, do some damage, and back off. Like rapid fire cannon is a pretty bad item, I agree, but sometimes you just need to have it, right? Because you just need range, either because you don't have like engage or they have so much range. So well, he's hashtag diamond for in a name, which is like emerald in Neo West. Yes, he's definitely trash player, but if he's trash player, it doesn't mean everything he says is wrong. Um, so yeah, and then Phantom Dance I think is fine. Hurricane is fine. Yes, they're not like they're decent items. They're not like amazing. I mean, definitely I can see that. At the same time, what is the alternative? Like, what can you buy? Because going tank is definitely not the option. Going Black Cleaver and stuff, you go Black Cleaver on Jinx and stuff. Like, it's not how it works. I don't think it's how it works. But yeah, I would say that Yuntal and Infinity Edge are you know just okay, like very pretty good items, and then PD Runans are just okay items. But the thing is, alternative is what building hex like you can't really do that, right? It's just you can, but it's just so suboptimal that it doesn't feel right. You're not tanky, but at the same time you're not doing damage. So it just feels like AD carry is like not the best role. You just have to you have to perform really well in order for you to win. That's it, right? Uh,
AD. Your 200% crit ends up bringing this to an extra 80 damage per auto, and the Infinity Edge amplification is going to turn this from 80 into about 100 to 110 bonus damage per auto. Itemizing items like Navori or Phantom Dancer feel awful because the problem is that you lose damage when you build them. And don't even get me started on if you itemize them before a third item, because bruisers and tanks will require you to get an LDR. So if you're going Yuntown to Infinity Edge and then you decide to get Runans on Twitch or Zeri, you will do 0 damage to their tanks. You will do 0 damage to their frontline. And
that's why you don't buy Runan's third item on Zeri if they have a Cho'Gath, because you go Lord Dominic's because they have tanks, right?
you're just going to be tickling them and praying that your team does something. So an item like, let's say, Runans can sometimes be good on some champions as a last item, but Phantom Dancer, Rapid Fire, and even Navori should never be itemized because you just lose way too much damage when
You don't lose damage when building PD compared to X-Blade. What is this take? Yeah, he's a bit delusional, right? He's a bit delusional with his takes. At the same time, he brings up some interesting
do.
ideas.
And I know some people are going to say, well, you're going to attack a bit faster. It doesn't even matter. The difference between 1.2 and 1.5 attack speed over an 8-second long fight is going to be maybe 1 or 2 autos. But imagine 6 autos where you're getting that bonus 100 to 150 damage. The DPS difference is way more. And for anyone that wants to push this Navori, Untrasun, or Sivir propaganda, just stop. ADC fights are not going to be lasting 8 seconds anyways. By the time your Q or your W run out, the fight is already over. So playing to have permanent uptime is a fake thing that doesn't even exist. But wait! Before you click off, there's one last thing I need to say. My account wasn't permanently banned. It was only rank restricted, and in order to unlock the account from being rank restricted, I need to play 3 normal games. So what I'm going to be doing is on Monday, I'm going to be calling in the help of a friend, Kadeem, and with his challenger normal level of skill, he's going to help me unlock the account from being rank restricted. So the ADC arc will not end here. I will still continue to play it. I will be interspersing jungle here and there as well though, because I did find this new insanely broken hacker mode this weekend that I'm going to be making a video soon about. But now that I managed to have a little bit of a mental reset from ADC, I feel like I'm actually willing to take it serious again and fall back in line of what my true intention was with the climb. So, crazy league content coming up with a little bit of variety too, so stay tuned for that. But thank you guys all for watching the video. I might make a part 2 in the future if I do end up hitting Masters, so stay tuned for all that as well. Anyways, thank you guys for tuning in.
Is he actually gonna get mastered there? Maybe if he plays like 10,000 games or something. But yeah, honestly, like when I see these KDAs and I see he's like 11 deaths, 14 deaths, 16 deaths, that is just insanity, man. That is just insanity. And it's like, yeah, but I do the most damage, bro. You know, I do a lot of them. Like, bro, you're spending more time death than you spend living. Like, what the fuck? Obviously, you're gonna do the most damage, right? It's just dead 24/7, right? Doesn't matter. So yeah. That's just my thing. Here's some good points though. That's that. Yeah, thanks so much for watching, and yeah, let me know in the comments what you think about this. See you next time. Bye bye.
$5. If you have problems improving and getting better in the game faster but cannot afford booking coaching, on my Patreon you can access more than 627 VOD reviews, premium videos about how to wave management, mid-game macro, and tier lists that will show you the best champions to climb and to improve for your elo. And these are not on YouTube, this is only on Patreon, they're exclusive. Moreover, you can participate in the free coaching waiting list to get a premium VOD review. I'm giving away 2 free VOD reviews every single week. All what you need to do is simple 2-step process. Subscribe to my Patreon and share your OPGG, and voila, you are on the waiting list. You're gonna get a personalized VOD review for any game in your match history. For just $5, you get not only the free VOD review, but a whole bunch of exclusive benefits that will supercharge your gaming experience. It's a small investment for a big return. And it's just $5, it's no brainer, right? But here is the deal, you've got to act quickly. The waiting list is already filling up fast. 55 people already subscribed to the Patreon, and there are 6 people that they are on board, they are on the waiting list. And more are joining every moment. Now, do you want to secure your spot for a free VOD review? Go ahead on my Patreon and reserve it right now.